workshop is both apt and timely, for it's being convened at a time when we're hearing all kinds of loose talk of a slowdown in the economy and of how the economy is in crisis and heading into recession. A time when those who inherited our economy for the last 3 years in the process of plundering and looting the nation's wealth and selling out our patrimony to a chosen few are suddenly purveyors of wisdom and purity of the heart. I say, be wary of their loose talk. Be conscious of the old adage, loose lips sink ships. Instead of ships, those loose lips, those idle, ill-informed talk, are intent on sinking our economy in the hope that somehow the government will be brought to its knees. There's even talk of the government not lasting 18 months. The naysayers among us have given us even less, no more than 6 months. But in a couple of days, your government will have defied the naysayers, for it will represent our 6 months in office. A testing period fraught with minefields of problems and challenges, but equally one which has allowed us to lay the foundation and set the stage for rapid progress over the coming years. This APNU and AFC government will never, and I repeat, never allow loose lips and idle talk to dissuade us from employing a fresh approach to the management of our economy. Our agenda of transparency and accountability is being built on the mountain of good governance, rather than relegating waste and corruption to the garbage heap, where they rightfully belong. It's about being more dynamic in our economy and in our public services. This dynamism, we believe, can best be brought about by changing the way we do public business. So today, I want to say that going forward, we're going to change the way we do business in this country. I mean the contracts we sign, the goods and services we procure, and the way these purchases are done. Despite a truncated year, the national budget for 2015 is $221 billion, of which the capital budget alone is $39 billion. And when we factor in a percentage of the current budget that is used for maintenance and rehabilitation, I suspect we have in excess of $50 billion of services and goods that have to be procured via the tendering system. So we're talking a lot of taxpayers' money to be spent. So we have to ensure that it is expended wisely and prudently. It is therefore our resolve, and no one should doubt it, to make our procurement and tendering system more open, competitive, and transparent. In this regard, in his remarks to a procurement conference in February 2011, British Prime Minister David Cameron had this to say, quote, "Clear, consistent, and transparent procurement processes are at the heart of anti-corruption measures and building people's confidence in their government. The principles of procurement underpin law-based governance, beginning from competitive and open bidding processes to ending with public access to audits and other information about procurement." Close quote. I don't think anybody in this room would disagree with this, a few remarks made by the Honorable Prime Minister of Great Britain. This new approach that we see will have many positives for our economy. For one, it will help us to tackle waste and control public spending. Importantly too, this can save us valuable and scarce resources which can be redirected to building more schools and health centers, training more persons, taking better care of our elderly, disabled, and other vulnerable groups, and generally help us to fight to reduce poverty. I want to turn to some of the problems we inherited in this administration, because I think very often people, in their impatience for results, don't recognize that it's only 6 months, or close to 6 months really, and there's a lot to be swept away before we can start building. I did make reference in my first budget speech, which was presented on the 10th of August of this year, about the tendering and procurement system. And I had this to say, quote, "A vigorous review of government's current process of tendering and procurement has led to the firm conclusion that the system is broken, and as a result, fostered an environment of unfairness and inequality among other ills." Close quote. Thus, as an immediate step, I informed the National Assembly that the government had changed the composition of the tender board, as well as taken steps to establish the long-awaited Public Procurement Commission, which is the oversight body of the tendering process in Guyana. This, as you know, however, formed part of our 100-day agenda. Unfortunately, the establishment of this commission continues to be elusive. Unfortunate indeed, because as the intended oversight body, many of the problems and issues that have come up could have been addressed promptly. We all accept that perception is reality. The public feels that there are credible allegations of corrupt behavior in public procurement. This takes many forms, a few of which were alluded to by the chairman in his opening remarks. But there are many forms: sole sourcing of job contracts, contract splitting, inflated engineering estimates, evaluation bias in favor of favored contractors, and the code of conduct that is coming is not only going to be for members of parliament and cabinet ministers, it will also cover those who are involved in this business too, among others. Use of inexperienced contractors, the absence of competitive bidding in many cases, overpayment to contractors, absence of district tender boards, limited publications on the website, failure of members of the various tender boards to file financial returns to the Integrity Commission, lack of a formal bid protest committee, lack of expertise among evaluators. And I think this formed the headline of one of the newspapers recently, where the Auditor General was moved to make public this lack of expertise among evaluators. Discrimination against particular suppliers and contractors. Award of contracts to the lowest bidder versus the lowest evaluated bid. And the ills can go on and on and on. And that is at least a dozen that I've given you. You are part of the process. You might have experienced any or all of these in your history of bidding. Suffice it to say, therefore, that on the evidence of what I have provided, the system breeds suspicion and distrust, and it has to be fixed. This lengthy list of ills, whether perceived or factual, has immediately engaged the full attention of the newly appointed tender board, which became fully operational at the end of August 2015. This body has been working assiduously to dispel these perceptions by promoting fairness, openness, and transparency, along the way helping to restore trust and confidence in the system. We are trying to sort out all of these inherited problems. Several noticeable changes have already been seen, including: 1. Contractors who have ceased tendering in the past are now returning to the system. This is evidenced by the large number of tenders being seen for each project. 2. More contractors and other stakeholders now feel free to make complaints and are being heard at the national level. 3. Complaints are coming in from the regions where non-adherence to procedures occur. Previously, contractors did not feel free to make such complaints for fear of victimization. 4. Regular inquiries are being received from potential contractors, suppliers who now wish to participate in the tendering process. 5. More requests for public information, training, seminars, and so on are being received by stakeholders and prospective bidders and contractors. 6. Positive steps to remove barriers contained in existing contract documents that stymie the entry of new contractors are being made. 7. New moves to involve small businesses, including women-owned and differently able businesses in government procurement. And finally, new regional and ministerial tender boards have been formed, and a revised and widened pool of national evaluators has been put in place. Meanwhile, the National Procurement and Tender Administration has been established and reports to the Minister of Finance, pending the establishment of the Public Procurement Commission. The district, regional, ministerial, and the National Tender Administration have thresholds and procurements above the NPTA's thresholds are referred to Cabinet for review and no objection. However, it should be made clear that Cabinet's involvement will be phased out with the formation of the Public Procurement Commission. We are also working with the Inter-American Development Bank to modernize the public procurement process. This project, in summary, provides the following interventions. 1. Revision of procurement regulations. 2. Preparation of a format for sensitization workshops. 3. Establishment of a process for debarment and reporting complaints in compliance with the regulation and internationally accepted standards. 4. Review of the Procurement Act to reflect the electronic mode of operation. 5. Training of procurement officers. 6. Training of procurement planning. 7. Training in contract management and contract compliance monitoring for the regions and agencies. 8. There will be a consultant who will be coming here to help with procurement planning. The board, the national board, will develop a procurement plan at the beginning of every year, and such a plan will give guidance as to all the projects the government has, whether they are in the pipeline or whether they are in implementation stage. So all the projects that we have, those ongoing, those coming on stream and so on, will form part of this plan, and it will be reflected on the National Tender Board's website, the Ministry of Finance's website, and there will be links to other government websites such as GMAT. There will also be the strategy for the introduction of e-procurement, as electronic procurement. There will be strengthening of the National Tender Board's website. There will be review of software to facilitate e-submission by the regions and ministries, so that we cut down less trees and less paper-driven activity. And finally, there will be the development of the database system at the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board. As you can see, we are going to cut red tape and bureaucracy that seems destined to eliminate a large body of small contractors, many of whom are cowed by the cumbersome and costly procedures, frightening rules, and the frivolous and trivial reasons for eliminating them from even small jobs. You may not be aware, but as indicated by the Chairman, The Small Business Act of 2004 provides for procurement by government from small businesses. The Act requires that at least 20% of procurement of goods and services required by the government to be set aside annually for small businesses. In this regard, the Tender Administration at the national level has begun an initiative with the Small Business Bureau to put into operation what remains a statement of intent to this day. This will be a main topic of presentation and panel discussion at a sensitization symposium soon to be convened by the Tender Board. Special attention will be paid to women-owned and differently abled small businesses. It is our desire, Mr. Chairman, to make the system a lot more welcoming for small businesses in particular. Mr. Chairman, last week, Cabinet offered its no objection for a contract of about $24 million to be awarded to a certain contractor to rehabilitate the Leguan Stadium. This contractor won the contract to undertake the works from a wide field of competitors, some of them well-known and repeat bidders. I am reliably informed that this contractor hails from Leguan. This goes to show that once the system is fair and transparent, every bidder will have a chance of winning contracts. The fact that a contractor from the community is going to undertake works in his community is worthy of note and replication. The government is thus mulling requests to amend the Procurement Act to make it mandatory for a part of the workforce of winning bidders to emanate from the community in which the works are to be executed. This will help to provide employment to especially young people in the rural areas while stimulating the economy of those communities. The government is also mulling the establishment of the Bid Protest Committee that I referred to earlier. We are aware that under the previous regime, contractors were afraid to make official complaints about irregularities in the procurement process for fear of being victimized. With the breath of fresh air that has permeated the environment, with the new administration in place, this attitude has been reversed, and contractors now seem more inclined to air their grievances regularly and to voice their disagreement. Contractors are free to come forward with their complaints. This is a welcome development, and it bodes well for fledgling democracy. In view of the frequency of these complaints, the government is inclined to the view that the time is propitious for the establishment of the Bid Protest Committee, which is envisaged under the Procurement Act. At section 53(4) of this act, it states, quote, "The Public Procurement Commission shall review decisions by procuring entities," end quote. In section 17(2), the authority specified shall conduct bid protest reviews through an independent three-person bid committee comprising one member appointed by the minister, one by the association appearing to the minister to represent contractors, and one by the Attorney General. The members shall be appointed among professionals who are particularly competent in the field of procurement. The conditions of appointment of members and their functioning are already prescribed by regulation. We will therefore move post haste to establish this committee in a further attempt to enhance transparency in this.